Hello class, and welcome to today's algebra lesson, which is about the distributive property. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to evaluate numerical expressions with the distributive property and simplify algebraic expressions with the distributive property. So we're going to start with what is the distributive property. The distributive property is a way for us to get rid of parentheses. So, for example, in this first one, we have a number times the quantity of b plus c. The distributive property says I can do a times c and then add that on to a times b and then add that on to a times c. Similarly, that works with subtraction. I could do a times b and then subtracting a times c. So we're taking the outside number and bringing it into those parentheses doing multiplication. This would work if there are more than two terms inside the parentheses. So if I had a plus c and then minus d, my distributive property would say a times b, giving me ab, plus a times c, which would give me ac, and then minus a times d, which would give me minus ad. So it can be used for as many quantities as there are inside the parentheses. So we're going to start with rewriting and evaluating. Rewriting and evaluating simply means that I want you to rewrite using the distributive property. For example, in this one, we've got 6 times 4 plus 6 times 5. So we rewrote the problem, and then remember, evaluate means solve. So I've got 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 5 is 30, giving me a final answer of 54. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Rewriting, we have 12 times 10 plus 12 times 8, 120 plus 96 is 216. Now we have a word problem. Jesse works on homework 6 days this week. Each night he spends 20 minutes on math, 30 minutes on reading, and 12 minutes on science. Write an expression for this scenario, then solve using the distributive property. The first direction is to write an expression. So I have 6 days, and each day I am doing 30 minutes of reading, 20 minutes of math, and 12 minutes on science. So that's my written expression. Now to solve that using the distributive property, first we're going to rewrite. So we've got 6 times 30 plus 6 times 20 plus 6 times 12. Solving each of those, we have 180 plus 120 plus 72 is going to give me 372 minutes spent doing homework this week. If you wanted to convert that into hours, you totally could, and that would be 6 hours and 12 minutes. Go ahead and try this one on your own. First, I want you to write the expression. Now that you've written the expression, I want you to solve using the distributive property. Breaking each part out, doing the multiplication, adding them up, you get 60 minutes or 10 hours at practice this week. We can also use the distributive property to help us do mental math. So this problem says 5 times 929. In order to do this mentally without a calculator, you can break it down by each separate place value. So I can say 5 times 900 plus 20 plus 9. I can break it down into each separate place value and put addition between them. After that, I can use my distributive property to solve. So I've got 5 times 900 plus 5 times 20 plus 5 times 9. That's going to give me 4,500 plus 100 plus 45, giving me a total of 4,645. The reason this helps us break it down mentally is, notice in the hundreds and the tens place value, we have a single digit number, so I can do 4 times 9, which gives you 45, and add on your 2 zeros. In the tens place, I can do 5 times 2, which is 10, and then add on my single 0. So the reason we break it down by place values is you can do single-digit multiplication then, and then add the appropriate number of zeros. Go ahead and try this one on your own using the distributive property and mental math. So we break it down, our place values of 1,302. Breaking those down and adding it up, you get 5,208. Now we're going to talk about using the distributive property to simplify. The rules apply just the same as they did when we were doing numbers. The outside value has to get distributed, multiplied with each interior value. So we have 7 times a squared. We have plus 7 times 4b. And then we have a positive 7 times a negative 6. Then you would go through and do that multiplication. 7 times a squared is just going to be 7a squared. Plus 7 times 4b is going to give me 28b. Plus 7 times negative 6, which is negative 42. Adding on a negative means that we are just subtracting. So I have a final answer of 7a squared plus 28b minus 42. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Distributing that negative 14 through to each piece, I end up with negative 28 n to the third plus 126 minus 56p. We can also use this property not only to distribute, but then lead to simplification. So I'm going to distribute this time. I'm going to start with 3 times 2m squared plus 3 times m. In this second piece, we've got negative m being distributed to both. So I've got negative m times positive m and negative m times positive 7. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my multiplication. So I've got 3 times 2, which gives me 6m squared. 3 times m, which gives me 3m. Negative m times m, which is going to give me negative m squared. Remember, as we multiply values, the exponent is going to increase. And then we've got negative m times 7, so negative 7m. Now, as you're looking at this problem, notice that we have a 6m and we have a negative m squared. So we have 6 of them, and we are taking away one of them, which is going to simplify down to just 5m squareds. Similarly, I have a positive 3m, and now I'm taking away 7 of those m's. So that's going to simplify to negative 4m. We cannot simplify this any further because m squared and m are 2 different values. Think about, for example, if m is 3, 3 squared is equal to 9, and m then would be equal to 3. 3 and 9 are not the same, so we cannot combine those into one value. So our final answer then would be 5m squared minus 4m. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Distribute the 4 in the first part, the negative 2a in the second part. After that, we need to simplify. We can combine the 4a and the negative 6a. If you had this same answer, negative 2a plus 16 plus 2a squared, but in a different order. So potentially if you had 2a squared minus 2a plus 16, that's the same answer. As long as those signs stay the same, it doesn't matter what order your terms are in. If you have questions about this or anything else from the lesson, please feel free to reach out and let me know.